Or am I? Good morning. I'm Judith Lay and this is Praise, the programme that connects faith and daily life.
Manx Radio.
On Praise today we're joining a journey, quite a long one, that began last year in Rome and won't reach its destination in Liverpool until almost the end of next year. Also on the programme, Bishop Peter previews a fascinating talk he's giving next weekend, a Kenyan visitor invites you to share a meal with him, and we're dreaming of spring in words and music. On the church calendar, today is Candlemas, a celebration of light. So let's reflect that in our first hymn, Christ Be Our Light. The Thomas Moore Singers and Christ Be Our Light. Today is Candlemas. It's also known as the Feast of the Presentation of the Lord, when Mary and Joseph took the baby Jesus to the temple for the rites of purification and dedication laid down in the Torah. Simeon, a holy man who lived in the temple, knew that this baby was the Messiah he had waited all his long life to see. And as he took Jesus in his arms, he thanked God, saying that he had seen a revealing light to the Gentiles. Simeon was announcing that the Messiah had come to save all people. Jesus was the light which had come into the world to drive out sin and darkness. As a symbol of this, candles are blessed on this day, hence the name Candlemas, and special services will celebrate Jesus as the light of the world. For example, in the cathedral in Peel this afternoon at 3:30, the bishop will lead a candlelit procession of light and evensong for Candlemas with the cathedral choristers. And in St George's Church here in Douglas, this evening at 6 o'clock, the All-Ireland Choir, Voces Insulae, will sing a Candlemas service in a completely dark church lit only by candlelight. And as we celebrate Jesus, a light in our darkened world, might I also ask myself, am I a light that guides others to Christ?
Together on the road with the Lord, together on the road with the Lord, together on the road to build a world where everyone is free. Together on the road.
Together on the road. That's a song, a signature tune you might say, that's been written specially for a major event in the life of the Roman Catholic Church in the Archdiocese of Liverpool, of which the Isle of Man forms a significant part. The event is a synod, and this morning I'm going to find out exactly what it is and how the Roman Catholic Church on the island will be involved. The Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Liverpool is in the care of Archbishop Malcolm McMahon. Last September, along with all the other bishops of England and Wales, Archbishop Malcolm went to Rome, to the Vatican. On his return, he sent out this message to all the Roman Catholics in his care, explaining his visit and the synod.
Every 7 or 8 years, each national hierarchy is called to Rome to give an account of what they are doing. It's not just reporting to the Pope, it is also an opportunity to listen to each other. Pope Francis listened to us too, for over 2¼ hours, and of course we listened to him. This listening is at the heart of his authority. It is the way Pope Francis lives out one of the titles of the Pope, the servant of the servants of God. It's sometimes hard to imagine the Pope as a servant, even Pope Francis, who has done away with much of the trappings that surround the Pope. But that is what he is, a servant. True authority is lived out in service, and that turns the way the world thinks on its head. Jesus saw authority as a way of service, to promote the good of others rather than to promote one's own honour and glory. This is at the very heart of our Christian service, as we try to imitate Jesus in our daily lives. The only way I can live out my calling to service as your Archbishop is by listening. I need to hear the hopes and fears of our people, the challenges facing our priests and deacons, our schools, and the reality our families have to deal with each day. I've decided to call a synod to help us meet some of the pressing issues that we face at this time in the life of the Archdiocese. How are we to witness to the gospel message of God's love in a culture that seems to have little room for faith? How can we better organise our resources of priests, deacons, people, buildings, so that we can become the church that God is calling us to be? I need your help so that we can truly be a church that listens. We all have members of our families, neighbours and friends who are Catholics, but have little contact with our parishes. Is it possible for us to listen to their experiences and their needs so that we can be a church that serves them too? We're going to try to listen to our young people, to families. We want to hear the experiences of those who may have made their home in our parishes only recently, and to learn how we can welcome them in a better way. In all this listening and learning, let's pray that we might hear a call from God to change, to try to be His church in a new way. The word synod means together on the way. The synod is a moment when we can choose a path to walk on, guided by the voice of the Holy Spirit who will speak to us. The synod is not just another meeting, it's a journey. We will be trying to discover the will of God through listening and learning. The voice of each one of us needs to be heard.
So how will Roman Catholic voices on the island be heard? That was a question I put to Monsignor John Devine, leader of the local Catholic churches.
The process of the synod is, first of all, each parish has chosen by various means who their parish synod member is. And then in addition, there are other members of the synod who are selected to ensure that there's a balance, that the membership actually reflects the demography of the church on the island.
So how many members will there be from the island ultimately?
There will be 7 members from each parish, 7 chosen from across the pastoral area as part of this balancing exercise, plus the priests.
So, with synod members chosen both here on the island and in the rest of the Liverpool Archdiocese across, what happens next? Back to Archbishop Malcolm.
I will officially convene the synod at a special service in the cathedral on Sunday the 3rd of February. All 500 members of the synod will be present at this service.
But in fact, not all 500 synod members will be in the Catholic Cathedral in Liverpool this afternoon. All the synod members from the island will gather in St Anthony's Catholic Church in Onken this afternoon at 3 o'clock for a parallel service led by Bishop Tom Williams, Auxiliary Bishop in the Liverpool Archdiocese. This enables local synod members and everyone else who would like to be there to share a time of prayer and fellowship at this important stage in the synod journey. And the welcome is for everyone, not just Catholics. The actual synod process will involve representatives of other Christian denominations and interfaith partners too, something I'll be exploring in a later synod report. But back now to Monsignor John. After today's service, what are the next stages together on the road?
There'll be a training session for the members to help them to understand not just the process of the synod, but to help them develop some of the skills of listening that are required. So the first thing will be to find out what the issues are that people want to talk about, to get the real issues that people are really concerned about in the life of the church. Then they'll all be fed in centrally, and if any of the big issues emerge that are obviously ones that, cut across the whole of the diocese, they're obvious candidates, if you like, for to go on the agenda of the synod. Or there may be very significant minority issues that are perhaps so significant that they should be included as well. And then there's a point where the bishop has to make clear that some issues, for instance, if people decided they wanted to change the date of Christmas, well, that wouldn't need to be eliminated. It would be an impossibility. Or there may be some issues in the Catholic Church that it's just the Archbishop himself can't decide, in which case they'd have to be passed up the food chain, if you like, to Rome, if they were really big issues. But other issues that the Archbishop could make a decision on in the future, they would be material for the synod. Once the issues have been identified, they will then go back to the local parishes, and there'll be some sort of mechanism for actually discussing these issues and making recommendations. And the recommendations or propositions would then go back to the main body of the synod, to the Secretariat in Liverpool. Those propositions would then be selected, the ones that are considered to be relevant, or some might be combined if they're similar. And then they in turn would go back to the parishes again, so the synod members can facilitate discussion on those and elicit people's opinion on the propositions. And then finally those propositions would go back again to the General Secretariat to be presented and voted on the final session of the synod, which is in October 2020. We're trying to minimise the amount of travel that synod members from the Isle of Man will have to undertake, but we don't want to eliminate it altogether. One of the things which will happen in the synod is that it will be a consciousness-raising exercise for synod members themselves, that they will grow in their understanding of issues personally, and they will also be meeting people from other parts of the diocese, and there'll be an interaction. And if people are open in discussion and open to change, I mean, there's always a temptation, isn't there, when you're asked your opinion on something, you've already got an opinion, and you just keep on beating the drum. To put yourself in the shoes of people who have a diametrically opposed opinion to yours can be very educative, really. People can have a kind of a fatalistic or cynical view about most things. I mean, the biggest problem, that people face is the feeling that nothing ever changes in any area of life. And to actually present synod to people as an opportunity for their voices really to be heard. We had a very good preparatory meeting at St. John's Mill for people interested in the Catholic Church, from throughout the island some months ago. We had some really interesting issues raised. And it's important for the clergy not to second guess what those issues are. The people have a better idea of the issues that affect them than we do. But it's not as if we're just spectators, because the clergy are actually members of the synod as well, and will be undergoing the same awareness training as the other members alongside them.
And a last word from Archbishop Malcolm.
Today, with real enthusiasm in my heart, I invite you all to join in the journey which will enable us to become the Church of God, the Church that God is calling us to be. That is our Synod 2020 journey.
In my next report, I hope to meet the island's synod members and find out just what are those big issues hoping to make their way onto the synod agenda. A challenging journey, a productive and rewarding one? I hope we'll find out as we continue our series of occasional reports on the progress of the Roman Catholic Synod, Together on the Road.
Together on the road with the Lord, together on the road to be the church He founded us to be.
The Island Spirituality Network is a group that welcomes people of all faiths and none. It offers regular meetings which are safe spaces to explore different expressions of Christian spirituality. And it meets again next Saturday morning, February the 9th, when Bishop Peter will lead the session. I popped into his office on Friday to ask him to tell me a little more about his chosen theme.
Well, I've given it quite a lengthy title, really, which is Female Mystics, the High Middle Ages in Europe and the Achievements of Monasticism and the Insights of Great Women. And what I really want to look at, I suppose, is three things there. One is the achievements of the monastic movements of the Middle Ages, which is something that we don't necessarily give the attention that it's due. And secondly, within that, to look at the role of the female voice. If you look, for example, at the very early centuries of Christianity, the female voice is quite silent, quite subdued, whereas in those Middle Ages it's very clear, it's very prominent, and it's very innovative. So I want to look at that, and I want also through that to see if we can find out something about what it means to be a mystic, to have mystical experiences, and whether there is a sense in which the female mystical experience offers us new insights for today.
It sounds to me as though we might be in for a few surprises in that you're going to spotlight people and their achievements that might otherwise have been overlooked.
It will. I think what I deal with would be some familiar names, some familiar people perhaps, and some who are less familiar. And to look at the diversity of ways in which God speaks to people and in which people in turn reflect that voice.
Bishop, could we truly say that no previous experience is necessary? Will people be able to find this accessible no matter what background they're coming from?
I hope so. You never quite know on these occasions what sort of experience people will have. And I can think of groups where one is surprised at how much people know. But I think what I'd want to do would just be to give an overall view of how the Christian history, the history of the Church, has developed through that monastic movement and the charism that female monastics, nuns, etc. have brought to it. And I don't think really any previous knowledge is required for that.
Thank you, Bishop Peter, who'll be the guest speaker at the Ireland Spirituality Network session this coming Saturday, the 9th, in St John's Mill. It runs from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. with a mid-morning break for light refreshments and a time to chat. Church's Bookshop are hosting a Kenyan artist and children's worker who's visiting the island later this week. There are opportunities to meet Michael Mwanika and hear his testimony and enjoy a Kenyan meal prepared by him in Peel, in Douglas and in Colby. Georgia Wedgwood-Main from the Bookshop joins me now with a reminder of the details.
Michael Mwanika, he's a youth worker from Kenya. He also works for Children Worldwide Kenya. And the Bookshop's going to be hosting a few events where he can share his testimony, and he's going to be cooking an authentic Kenyan meal for people as well. We're going to be hosting 4 events around the island at Peel Methodist Church, St George's, St Andrews and Colby Methodist. Just 2 hours in which there'll be a Kenyan meal, a talk from Michael about his work and about his testimony as well, and also there will be an exhibit of artwork by Evans Nyangesa. We currently sell some of his art in a bookshop, but there'll be some of his bigger scale paintings and things on display as well as his crafts. There's a limited number of tickets available, so 30 available for each event, and we're charging £5 for adults and £2.50 for children. That's just to cover costs, and any extra money will go to the church's hosting and also to Children Worldwide Kenya and the work Michael's doing with them.
The dates this is happening are...
In the evening of Friday the 8th of February, there'll be an event at Peel Methodist from 6 to 8 p.m. The afternoon of Saturday the 9th of February from 11:30 to 1:30 at St George's. And then again, the evenings of Monday the 11th and Tuesday the 12th of February, there'll be events at St Andrews and at Colby Methodist, respectively, 6 to 8 p.m.
People can have a look at Church's Bookshop on Facebook to find details of this, or, of course, pop into Church's Bookshop just alongside the Promenade Methodist Church. And, of course, you're open 6 days of the week, Monday through to Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Listen out for an interview with Michael Mwanika on Praise in the near future. Well, despite the dangerously extreme weather conditions in America and significant snowfalls across, we are seeing little signs of spring here on the island. Snowdrops under the hedges and daffodils in the shops. So I thought we might encourage ourselves by celebrating the beauty of the earth in words and music.
Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils.
Things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. Each little flower that opens, each little bird that sings, He made their glowing colours, He made their tiny wings. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord made them all. Purple-headed mountain, the river
All things bright and beautiful, celebrating creation with the music of John Rutter and Wordsworth's famous Daffodils poem, was brought to us by Anne Clark. There's a new praise podcast available every Sunday morning. You can subscribe for free on iTunes, Google Podcasts and Spotify, via the Manx Radio smartphone app or at manxradio.com. So, until we meet again, this is Judith saying thank you for your company, and I wish you and those you love every blessing in the days ahead.